This should be a very exciting presentation. Johannes Wilm will now introduce Vivliostyle, which, in my opinion, will be the next big thing to hit the digital publishing industry. So please take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Johannes Wilm, and I'm here in the name of Vivliostyle, which is a Japan-based startup which grew out of Antenna House. Yes, as you mentioned already, we are talking about publishing, and the typical input formats we have in publishing is people write stuff in their word processor, or they have some kind of web-based editor, hopefully more of that in the future, and the output needs to be ebooks, web, and print. And then if we look at the formats for that, obviously for word processors, it's still mainly doc and docx. Web-based editors can be HTML or XHTML, and for the output, well, EPUB, which really is XHTML inside. Then there's web, which is again XHTML or HTML, and then there's print, which is PDF. Now, so to get all this to work together, different publishers have employed different workflows, and the workflows are kind of complex. I mean, these are just some examples of workflows that we have found. One is obviously they take a doc, meaning the author writes something in Word, sends it in, they then convert it to XML, many times send it to teams in China and India to try to clean it up, and then after a lengthy process, they get XHTML and PDF out of that. Another one is that they try to convert it to LaTeX, which they then convert to PDF. The conversion to the PDF works, but they don't really get the EPUB out of that. Or the last one, for example, they have HTML, which they convert to XML, then they convert that to PDF, and then they convert that back to HTML so that they can make an EPUB. Why do they do this? Because they do some fine adjustments in the PDF, so that, and to also get these adjustments, they convert it back to HTML that way. The common issue with these conversions is that they are rather labor intensive, most of them, and each conversion can cause more problems. So if you have more conversions in a workflow, you tend to have more problems. So one of the solutions to this is to just switch to one format, like one basic format, XHTML, which you can use for most of these, for both input and output. Not quite for the word processor, but as you can move people away from Word and onto the web in some way, hopefully also more there. And then you just need to style the output in different ways depending on the output that you have. So for EPUB and web, that's simple. There's CSS, which has been developed for almost 20 years. And then for print, there's 3 print-specific CSS specifications. Now, this is not something entirely new. We aren't the first ones trying this. So why hasn't this happened in the past? I mean, there are different engines to try to already do book publishing using CSS and XHTML or HTML. So there is the Antenna House formatter, there is Prince XML, PDF Reactor, and the last 2, pagination, JS, and simple pagination, which I programmed the last 2 years or so. These we can split up in kind of 2 categories. One is the try to create a renderer from scratch. This is Prince XML, Antenna House, PDF Reactor. They created an entire program trying to understand the HTML, the CSS, try to apply it, and so on. No, of course, this means quite high development costs. They basically need to do the same as the entire Chrome or Firefox team, or the Safari team. Then when it comes to print, the extensions that they added so that they can do print-related formatting, meaning margins on pages, meaning page numbers and so on, they mostly develop by themselves. So they don't really, you can't really switch easily from one to the other. Also, in each browser engine, there are bugs, and there will always be bugs. And people who develop for the web know this, and they work around these bugs, or they don't use certain features. Now, if you create your own engines, you will also have bugs, but these bugs will be different. So that if you create output that works in your Chrome browser, it will not necessarily work in a completely different engine that somebody has built just for print. So all this means that they haven't been able to keep up with normal browsers in development. They don't have the entire JavaScript. They don't have many of the features that browsers have. Now the other solution is sort of to create a browser's PDF renderer. So you take the browser, you use the print to PDF feature of it, and you write some JavaScript that sort of turns everything into pages and puts the page number on them, puts the headers and all the rest of it. You can do this. I've done it twice. And you can run them headless on a server. And I mean, there are headless versions of WebKit out there. The problem with these are these two, they're very book specific, and sort of all options, all configuration options you need for them, you need to supply via JavaScript functions. So that you sort of, if you want to style a book, you have like, well, the headline, that is a common feature, so that is in CSS. But then the gutter, the size of the gutter, that's a book-specific feature, so that I need to specify using JavaScript. Now, what we think is at least one way forward is to have a browser's PDF renderer that is generic in nature, so it's not just books, it's other print content as well, and that parses the CSS itself, takes the print-related features and applies those, and that also follows web standards, so that you don't have the issue of not being able to move from one system to the other. So that is the first part, is to create a JavaScript solution for that, and the second part is to participate in the creation of these print-related CSS specs to make sure that they are actually complete, feature complete, and that you can actually use them for real renderers. This is the current status. So if you, here this is a normal web page, screenshot from Chrome. If you apply the Vivliostyle JavaScript library, it passes more of the CSS, and in this case it could turn it into a page with a top float and 2 columns. And here you can go page forward, for page backward. If you click print, you get the whole thing in PDF format. Also, as you can see here, we have implemented like headers or footnotes. So they also work, and we also have support for non-Latin text directions. Additionally, we have started to work in the CSS working group. So here I am working on the spec for page floats. That's basically that things can float to the top or go to the bottom on certain pages, something that web browsers have not had until now. Now, there is a common argument around this, which is, well, if you basically build on top of the technology of other people, which is the browsers, and browsers don't care for print. That is very true. And I don't know, has anybody here heard of what happened to CSS regions? Does anybody know what it is? 1, 2, 3, a few. Okay, so basically this was Adobe tried to move their stack to browsers. So they invented a way that you can basically say, here's a region, and like I float some text into it. If it's full, then go somewhere else and continue the flow there, and so on. Some generic technology. They invested in making specifications around this. They had a development team that committed this to WebKit and which at that time still was both Safari and Chrome. When they split, they committed both to Blink and to WebKit, meaning both Chrome and Safari. But eventually, the Chrome team decided that this was of no interest, so they just kicked it out. So that's of course a problem if they end up doing this. So that's why the approach that we took is, well, we need to build on generic features that are in the browser already that are not print related. So there are ways sort of getting around the limitations that browsers naturally have to make our own rendering engine for print. And additionally, there's something called the Extensible Web Manifesto, which is described a bit here. It's basically it's a set of principles that some of the browser manufacturers have subscribed to, and many of the members of the CSS working group, which basically say that in the future, the way they want to make web standards is they first want to expose a set of primitives in the browsers so that JavaScript developers then can build something on top of these primitives. And to make higher level specs, they can then work together with JavaScript developers who constantly can make polyfills to sort of implement the things already while they are developing the spec. And after that, they can put it into browsers. So this will help us in the sense that if we already have access to sort of the low-level things in browsers, the low-level information, with our JavaScript on top, we can then add these print features. And even if browser manufacturers aren't interested in ever putting it into the browser themselves, well, there's still our JavaScript polyfill, and it works perfectly. I mean, to create a book, it may take some more seconds if it's JavaScript and not the browser that does it, but that doesn't really matter under most circumstances. No? Yes, so that was very quickly what we're trying to do at Vivliostyle currently. Comments, questions? Yeah.
Can I point you to some work that of Hassan and Tamer Venkata that's going to be published at ACM.eng in September?
Okay.
Which is where they basically built to quite considerable professional standards, printing out of effectively the same sort of thing you're doing. How much they've basically put the print stuff into the CSS, I'm not sure. But there's a long paper on that that's coming out. You should look at. I can give you the better reference.
Okay, that would be good. So it's basically about print and web technologies.
It's done by HP, so it's right.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Have you tried this with Vivliostyle JavaScript? Are you just using this in a web browser, or are you using ebook readers as well?
Do we use it in the second part was?
Ebook readers.
I don't know what that is.
Readers.
Oh, ebook readers. Well, okay, so the idea with ebook readers, as we understand it from talking to various people working around that, is that the ebook readers of the future will not have their own ebook rendering engine. They will basically be WebKit or Chromium sort of repackaged in a way so it can easily open the EPUB format. Yeah. So I guess I haven't looked into the specifics of it, but I imagine that it will just have a bit of JavaScript that does the actual sort of making the page layout and the page forward and backward and so on. Yes. Other comments? Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I understand correctly. When you say print features or print this, print that, I can replace that with paginated. That's it, right?
With what?
Like when you talk about print features, that's completely equivalent to saying paginated content. Paginated, so it appears on pages, nothing else.
Pages.
Yeah, with yes. Yes, I mean there are some things which like the question is, do you want to make footnotes? If you want sort of have paginated content on a reading device, how do you want to present the footnotes? And there are different ideas of that. Some that say, well, you have to sort of click on it and comes as like an info box or something. Whereas there may be slight differences, but I mean you could basically you can use this both to sort of have it as an on-screen reading device. I mean you could load this on an ebook reading device that then has WebKit installed and then has the can render pages beautifully in that, and also use it to make the print function of the browser to create a PDF of it. But there may be some slight adjustments you would want to do if you wanted to have it as an ebook reader, so to speak. Yeah.
Are you planning to create an interactive application out of that runs in the browser and would eventually be able to replace InDesign?
We have so far we have not looked at content creation. So so one of the things, if we go back to so these two I created, and the first one, the pagination JS, was also an interactive content creator. So basically you could write like as if you were writing in a book, and sort of everything would flow forward, and the footnotes and so on. The problem is that because we lost CSS regions in Chrome, that makes it somewhat more complex to achieve the same. So we haven't looked at that so far in terms of Vivliostyle. Yeah, well,
What's the problem? Quick.
no more
What's the problem,
questions?
quick?
If so, then I'm done.
I-